everyone, welcome to Property 118's channel. My name is Elizabeth Warburton and today I am here with Max, formerly from Star Property Group, and he has now rebranded to Max Scott Property, and he won Property Investor of the Year at the UK Property Investor Awards 2022. So thank you very much for joining me this morning, Max.
Pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, really excited to have a chat with you this morning and to get to know you a bit better and your business a bit better too. Let's firstly start then. Let's go back a little bit to who you were growing up, and did you always have that entrepreneurial streak about you?
I think I was always looking for angles on things and ways of doing things differently. My mum sort of reminded me of that quite recently. And I remember just sort of like buying multi-packs of Mars bars and splitting them up, which is now quite similar to title splitting. And then I also went traveling and discovered this neck pillow, which is designed for neck ache. And it helped my friend with snoring, and they didn't advertise it as snoring. I was like, they've got the wrong market here. So we picked it apart, found what made it, rebuilt it, and tried it on a couple of people, and it worked. And it got to quite a good stage, that business, but just as it was sort of starting to have real potential, property started taking over, and I decided to pick a focus. So yeah, I've always felt like I would be an entrepreneur in some way, shape or form.
Yeah, amazing. Wow, neck pillows, that's an interesting one, isn't it? Neck pillows to property.
Yeah.
You can always link everything back, can't you?
Yeah.
So then where did property come in for you? How old were you when you first started working in the industry?
So it's been 10 years, so I've been 24. It was in 2013, and basically I'd had a copy of Rich Dad Poor Dad given to me by my mum. I can't remember, a couple of years earlier. And I had some money and I was looking to invest it in a property. And then I saw this sign pop up saying Rich Dad Poor Dad seminar, 1 hour free. And there was Robert Kiyosaki's face. I thought, I'm going to go meet him and that'd be really cool. And then of course he wasn't there. And it was a really interesting seminar though, and taught me about money out deals and all the things that are quite hard to achieve. But at the end of it was an opportunity to sign up for a 3-day course for £1,000. And I remember thinking, well, I'm going to spend my life in property, whether it's as a side investment or living in something or whatever, and I'm sure I will save this £1,000 one way or another. So I signed up for doing that, and then on that course I signed up for a year's worth of courses at 18,000, put all of my savings that I saved for property into that, and told Star, my employer at the time, I'm going to go and do that now. And they said, well, why don't you stay and do that with us? So that's been the match between us, as I've run the investments and they've made the money in the betting industry, and I've spent that money on property and grown quite a big portfolio now.
Amazing. So tell me a bit more about then where you first met Star and how you started working for them, because that was before you did the education course, is that correct?
Yes, it was. Yes. So I was at university studying business management, and we met a professional. I was on the Entrepreneur Society, which wasn't as entrepreneur as it might sound. So there's quite a few parties, and then we did go to some events with speakers and stuff like that. And I met a professional gambler there, and I really liked the idea of it. And that was, I suppose, my next entrepreneurial venture. I went into an internship with him, and then we decided to set up a business teaching people how to make £1,000 risk-free from betting, which is basically taking advantage of the free bet bonuses. You bet for an outcome and against an outcome, and then what happens, you've won or broken even. You take the free bet, and there's over £1,000 worth of free bets out there, so you can make £1,000 risk-free. And I thought the site would take off, but of course students are lazy, so I made quite good money myself doing it, and it was a good project, but it didn't really take off. And then some school friends were working at Star at the time. I told them about what I was doing, and they said, oh, come and meet Ben. And I met Ben and we got on well, and 6 months later I was working for him.
Okay, interesting. And so touching back on the education that you just said, you ended up using your savings for what you originally thought you were going to put into a property. That seems to be quite a common denominator through a lot of people when I talk about education and what people initially thought they were going to do, and then they end up going down the education route. Do you still agree with it? Do you still agree with mentorship and paying that much money for property education?
I have mixed feelings about it, to be honest, because I did it with a friend of mine who didn't end up staying in property. And I think it's massively oversold. I think they make it sound easy when it's really hard. And
Yeah.
I think all you need to do to reposition it, to not be a salesy, money grabbing scheme and to actually be really good value, is say, all of what we've said is true, but it's really, really hard to achieve. And not everyone makes it. And I think they'll be really fair in their approach to it, but they kind of all tell you about the success stories and stuff like that. And eventually enough people will be successful, and it opens your eyes up to what's possible, but it only touches the tip of the iceberg in terms of how to do things. And I think some people make it really quickly. Some people's expectations are really high, don't get near it, and then give up. And so I've got mixed feelings about it.
Yeah, I'd be inclined to agree with you there, especially with like you said about making it sound a lot easier than it is. That was definitely a situation I found myself in, and kind of 6 months in, I was like, oh wow, this is really hard.
Yeah, exactly. But then equally, two Warburtons here, we probably wouldn't necessarily have been here if we hadn't have done that. So that's the flip side as well. There is value in it.
Yeah, and I also think there's two very different aspects to property. You can either take, if you do have the capital, but you don't have any interest in actually physically getting involved in day-to-day property, of just investing and just using your cash into somebody else's business to progress your own portfolio, or you can end up being full-time in property. I think there's never like a clear distinction between them both when you're first learning about it. I'm kind of veering more down towards keeping my career and keeping my full-time job of what I do, and then just using my money to invest rather than creating a full-time property business.
Yeah, you can do either. There's plenty of people that invest, that it's not their full-time gig, and they will pull less money out, but they leave money in, and that generates a return for them, which is better than doing nothing with the money. So there's a huge scope in what you can do. And I think actually just being in property, one of the things I liked about it is there's not many industries where you can be in it working as an employee and learn a lot, which will help you build a side investment pot towards a retirement goal. It's kind of like uniquely property. I mean, share trading, I suppose there'd be a small application of that theory, but that's kind of it. So I think there's a lot of things that apply to property which don't in other industries, which are really good.
Yeah, absolutely. So if anybody was watching this now and they had some capital maybe, but they didn't know what to do with it, or they wanted to invest it but be a little more hands off, would that be something that they could contact you about and have a chat with?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's going to be part of my new business, Max Scott Properties, working with high net worth individuals, sports stars and businesses as well, because I think that's unique. People often skip over the idea of teaming up with a business, and that's what's worked so well with me at Star, is that it's partnering someone that generates deposit money with someone that invests that money, whereas a lot of investors on the circuit are trying to like pull money out of deals, and it's really hard to do that, and you can only do it occasionally. Whereas if you just find someone constantly making money and you just invest it, then you'll get very good deals, but overall you'll build something huge. And because of that, in more recent years their business has grown as well, but we're now passing £100 million portfolio.
Amazing. So tell me then about your first deal that you did. Can you remember what it was?
I will tell you about, it was either my first or my second one, and it was one that went completely wrong. And sometimes you have to take these painful lessons early, and it kind of focuses you on the detail a little bit more. But we bought an HMO. This is through Star, a 9-bedder, and there wasn't really a professional market. There was a student market, and the person who was the property manager said, they all wanted to stay for the next year. And then very last minute realised that they weren't staying. Then it was empty for the student year. And so someone came along and said, here you go, I've got 9 tenants, all with their form signed, ready to go. So, well, we don't have much choice. Took them all on, and 8 out of 9 were heroin addicts. And it got taken over by drug dealers, and the police wouldn't go round, no one would touch it. And we ended up hiring security guards, and it still wasn't enough. And an axe went through the front door, and the house got shut down when a shotgun went off. So nothing like that has ever happened again. And I've done hundreds of deals. But it is a really important lesson, I suppose, in many ways. And that's also, you can't take your eye off the ball. A lot of times the deal is done at the beginning, but management is very important, and knowing your area of your market and what the backup options are, multiple exit, and that applies to both the refinance or sale, but also to the tenant type and what happens if your first choice changes. So yeah, that went wrong, but it's an interesting story, and I don't mind sharing the failures as well as the successes.
Yeah, 100%. Like that is the realistic lessons of property, right? Not everything goes to plan at all. And especially for something that traumatic to happen at the beginning, that shows how resilient you must be in order to go again after that. I bet you took a pretty big knock.
It wasn't actually too bad, partly because it was a rising market, and I think we just refurbished it and sold it after that. But it wasn't as big as it could have been. But that's another lesson, and we talk about the courses and everything, is people love shouting about the success stories. And there's very few people that shout about the painful lessons. And actually, every investor who's done a lot of deals will have some painful lessons, and some are more willing to share than others. And I think that's something that, you've got to say on the courses, like, people can lose money. And even just like, this is how these people lost money would be great value education of avoiding those mistakes. But I think everyone kind of shies away from talking about it. But
yeah, 100%. So tell me then, do you have a particular deal that stands out to you as being one of your best?
I've done quite a few good deals. I remember my first big deal was in 2015, so we've been going for 2 years, and we bought an auction purchase for cash. It was in a different area to the auction, a couple of hours drive away, which I thought was odd. And we paid 484 for 6 flats, and we had them valued at 600 afterwards. Refinanced individual leases and pulled a huge amount of our money out. And it was, decent amount of equity gain straight away, like nearly 120 grand. And it was really exciting for me because that's something that I really loved, the idea of title splitting. And of course, you've made that uplift, but they're tenanted from the beginning.
Right.
So some developers make 15, 20% margin or whatever. It's over a couple of years. There's finance, there's risk. And this was the same margin, but, income producing from day one. That said, again, the financing was a lot harder than we were told on the courses it would be. And even the brokers that shouted about it in magazines and stuff like that kind of went, oh, no, it's not easy to do back to back. And I did my first back-to-back title split last year, which I was really pleased with, where we bought it with a mortgage at split on day one. So that was some of my favourite deals. But then the one that I won Investor of the Year for was good as well. And our biggest deal was £13 million and huge net yield. So I'm really proud of quite a lot of deals that we've done.
Brilliant. That sounds amazing. Let's talk then about the deal that won you your award. So you won Property Investor of the Year. It was the last award, and it was a pretty epic celebration. I remember it well. Congratulations again. But tell everybody then, how did you find the application process, and was this award based on just one individual deal, or was this more of a broad all round of who you are, how your business has gone from strength to strength, as well as the deal, do you think?
So I think it was a bit of both, because the same deal was made finalist for Commercial Conversion of the Year and Deal of the Year as well. So I'd sort of not won those 2 awards. So being the last award up was quite nerve-wracking. I didn't want to be a finalist in 3 and not win anything, but we won that in the end. And so I think it was a combination of the deal, but also it's Investor of the Year, right? So it's a more overall application, I guess. And I think what was unique about me and what probably stood out is that over a couple of years, I built a huge number of supporting businesses which help us scale. So we've started, we bought a law firm after starting one under sort of a consultancy arrangement initially. Started a construction company, an insurance company, supported housing charity. And all of these I see as the pillars that enable us to grow much quicker and better as well. So then we've got that as the foundation. Then overall in the year, I'd still done £30 million worth of acquisition. So we were very, very active. So I think in terms of volumes, I was probably right up there with what anyone else had done. And then we had one deal which the numbers were just insane, and I was extremely pleased with it. And there were all sorts of circumstantial challenges we had to overcome.
Amazing. So it was a commercial conversion, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah. So tell us specifically then about the deal.
So it was a conversion of offices in an area where offices weren't overly popular. So it had, I think it was something like 70% void. So you had a bit of a motivated seller, although they had quite a lot of money.
Okay.
There are a couple of leases in place with inside the landlord tenant act, which means the tenant has the right to stay. So we had to take a risk that we would be able to get them out, but the service charge was high, and we knew that at the end of the day, if we had to pay them a year's rent or something, it wouldn't be an overall problem in the deal. And actually, in the end, most of them were pretty pleased to be getting out of there. And it was quite nice because the room sizes of the offices almost were the size of studio flats, bar like one or two.
Oh, wow.
So there wasn't as much structural work to do. The other thing that was quite unique about this was the timing of it. It had just been announced that permitted development rules were changing, and you would have to meet minimum space standards now, which is very big, I think, for 37 meters for a studio, I think it is. So these are 18 to 28 meters squared, and certainly bigger than any student room I ever lived in when I was a student. So I think perfectly adequate. And there was also one unit which wasn't office, so we had to get certificate of lawfulness to show that it had never been used as its dentist surgery or something. That it got, or physio or something like that, that it got approval for. So there are a lot of challenges like that we overcame. And then in the end, we were all in for £893,000 on the deal. It was valued up at 1.4. We got £1,050,000 loan against that from Shawbrook. And I think the rent was 100 or 105 grand a year with some fixed increases as well. And that was on a lease. So someone else was taking care of the voids, the management, the maintenance, the headaches. So it's a very, very hands-off deal at the end of it. So all of our money out plus 150 grand and a huge yield, and turned it around quite quickly as well. So all in all, yeah, I was very, very pleased with that.
Incredible. Yeah, that sounds like a brilliant deal. So are they students that are now renting those?
So we had two options, council or students. And in the end, we were surprised that there was as much of a student market there as there was, which is one of the reasons why we leased it rather than taking it on, because we just thought it's just less risk. And also students, you want to be a bit more active in the management. It's just over an hour away, so it's a bit harder. So yeah, in the end, students was better because it's slightly easier to finance a student building than it is building on lease to a council or a charity. So yeah, students.
Brilliant. So going back to what you said about you now have a housing association charity, is that what you said?
Supported housing. So it's not quite a housing association. That's a level up in terms of like red tape, and I don't quite know what the differences are. But okay. This is what's called a community interest company. There's a blend between a company and a charity. We technically own it, but you can't withdraw any profit from it. So it's a structure that enables you to get enhanced housing benefit. So they lease property from ourselves and other landlords as well. We do quite a lot of rent to rent within that vehicle. They provide tenancy-based support. So these are clients that would not be able to go into a letting agency and get a property. Mm-hmm. The letting agent want to take them on. So there's a varying range of needs, from mental health to learning difficulties and everything in between that comes under that. And then we work with external support providers as well to help give them the care they need. And we get some amazing feedback about the quality of our properties that we provide and the difference it's made to their lives. And some said that, they would never have done a video, but we did a video a little bit like this with some, and they were talking about the difference that we've made, and they said that their confidence is higher and everything from working with us. So we really try and work to achieve that they don't need that support soon, but at the time they go in, they need support, and that's what that does. So it's Star Community Housing.
Brilliant. And is that something that you're focusing on now more through Max Scott Properties?
So Max Scott Property will just take on a couple of clients. I only want to work with a few people, and then I'm also still working or contracting for Star to deliver their acquisition goals. So I think for them alone this year, I'll probably buy about 40 million quid of property. So I've got plenty to be getting on with. And so that vehicle sits under them. But then I've had quite a big hand in it starting and growing, and I will continue to use that. So what we're envisaging is that anyone that I work with going forward, I will find the deals, and then Star will be the system that executes them still. And it allows me to have less noise and focus more on the upfront deal end, which is what I like doing. That's where the value is for me. Mm-hmm. And that will enable me to buy more and more each year, because it's getting to be quite a big acquisitions target now. And last year we did 30, but one of that was a 13 million quid deal. So, it's a lot to do 40, and next year will probably be 50 in a year. So
Wow.
Separating out execution, and then I'll just have a narrow focus.
Okay, so that was going to be a next question of mine, was what is your goal and your strategy for 2023? So it's going up another 10 million, is that correct?
That is, yeah, and I suppose I've got two other things that are big projects that I'm looking to achieve in addition to that. One is write a book, which I've done about 2/3 of it now, although it needs lots of tidying up as well. So obviously it's going to be called, it's to do with property, and it's basically why property is the most powerful investment tool and asset class in the world. And there's 5 factors that make it that, which I think make it stand out from everything else, and is why property achieves such great results. And that will probably be a funnel for new investors wanting to work as well. And also I just have an urge to write a book. I don't know why, I just quite like the writing process.
Yeah.
Then the next project is, there's sort of 2 levels to it. I'm calling it Deal Machine. I think that once you agree a deal, it often goes through into emails via solicitors back and forth with lots of different component parts. And it's quite a lot of work sharing all of the information with your insurance broker, your mortgage broker, solicitors, and all of that. And I'm wanting to build a system that coordinates the acquisition process, makes it easier, and also will make it easier to scale and do more, because it's quite a difficult thing to achieve. I might not do it, but even if I get halfway there, it'll be good. But if I can build that system, the sky's the limit for me, or the sky's not the limit, as I quite like to say. But if I can't, then there's always going to be a blockage around execution, no matter how much I can find. So I'm looking at building something which executes on mass, and then also portfolio management as well. Every large investor that I know still runs their portfolio off spreadsheets, and it's insanity. So something which helps you look at your loan to value covenants, that integrates with your bookkeeping, and just shows you how your portfolio is performing in a simple dashboard as well.
Okay, wow, that sounds very exciting. Have you started that, or is that just an initial idea at the moment?
We've started scoping it out, and I'm starting to build the component parts. We've started doing the back end dashboard work as well, building another system, and that's nearly ready. And then I've scoped out a lot of what the system looks like, and then I'm finding people that have developed something that does a part of it and trying to work with them to improve that, and then it will enable me to do it in small steps, basically. So what I will have in a couple of months is something that works for us, and whether it's something that we can then make commercially viable and launch as a product, or it just works for us, is sort of level 1 and level 2. And I'm not sure whether it will go to level 2, but I think it can. But it will be a very expensive bit of work to make it a commercially viable product. So we'll see. Level 1 is the focus for now.
Well, good luck with it. I hope it goes really well. Yeah, really great. And so if somebody was considering investing in your new company, what are your kind of requirements for an investor?
So really, I'm only working with people that I either know well or have a minimum of £1 million to invest, because that will enable cash purchases, which is nice, quick and easy. And then ideally they can top up that amount by 250, 300 grand a year, then that will enable refinance, and they can be a cash buyer of £1 million a year and then build a portfolio for them. So that's what I'm looking for. And to be honest, I probably won't cut that much, because I've got so much on anyway. Unless it's at that level, it's probably not going to be worth my time. And also then they'll probably want more hand holding if they're not at that level, and ask more questions, which is fine. I don't mind doing that, but it's got to be bigger to offer value, really. So that's what I'm looking for.
Nice. And then just going back to the Property Investor Awards, how do you feel winning the award has been for your business and for your brand? Do you think it's had a positive effect?
Yes, I mean, in many ways, it's Monday came round and it's business as usual. In other ways, we're doing this interview, there's exposure. I will say at some point what our deal criteria is, and people can send those to us. It will encourage people to work with you compared to not having that. It's just that bit of recognition, which I suppose has a bit of a stamp of authority on you do actually do deals that are very good. And so I think it will have a very good positive impact on exposure. And I think in one way, if people know who you are, more deals and investors will come to you, which is about being a sort of key person of influence within the industry. And a book will probably help with that as well. But it's all going to be part of, I think it will accelerate our growth, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Positive PR can only be a good thing.
Yeah.
And for anybody who's thinking about applying for next year's awards, do you have any advice or recommendations for them?
Yes, and this kind of applies to absolutely anything you're doing. And I don't know if it's just me and how my mind works, but I like starting something because it's quite, the more effort you put in, the more you will get out of it, I think. And so start really early, draft it, and then that way you're not rushing everything together at the end. Your mind's working in the background. You might come across something, a deal, something on site, and you can use that. So one of the things that I think possibly held me back on the other 2 awards is we didn't have any videos of us doing the site, developing the site afterwards, walking and talking around it. Whereas the investor award video, I could do a video like this and talk about something else, as well as the deal and everything that we were doing. So I think it was probably less involved, but you've got to make sure you've got good media of your projects and just start really early. And even if you're not thinking of applying, it's probably really good just to sharpen up what you're doing and make you think about all the components better. And then one day you'll think, actually, this deal ticks a lot of boxes in that award application, and maybe I should consider applying.
Yeah, I agree. I think as well, I mean, I totally underestimated the application process for my category, and there was over 50 questions, if I remember rightly. So it is a really intensive process, very, very detailed. So you do need to know what you're talking about, and as you said, have as much backed up evidence, whether that be pictures, video content, numbers, spreadsheets, data, to support your application. So yes, very much agree with you there. And if there's a piece of advice for anybody just getting started in the industry, could you offer any words of wisdom from your extensive experience?
I think the most important thing is to start. I had a very slow first 5 years of my journey and an insane second 5 years. And whatever your exposure can be, whether it's just learning from someone that's doing it at the moment, go and work for them, take a pay cut, but you will learn a lot more. So I always remember hearing the expression, you get paid in 2 ways. One is experience and one is money. And if there's a way you can get paid in experience, and that applies to me as well, is that I've built, although I'm a shareholder as well, I've built someone else a portfolio, but I've done so many deals that now I'm going to do better deals myself. And that's something that's worked for both sides. So I think you can look at doing deals for other people. Experience is very valuable as well.
Yeah, definitely. And any quotes you like to live by? Are you a quote kind of guy?
I am a quote kind of guy. I love quotes. I've got loads of them. I built a blueprint last year at Star, and there was a quote on every week of what our working week was. There's many that I live by. I suppose the most relevant one for now is to do with property and compounding. So compound interest, Einstein said, is the most powerful mathematical force in the universe and the 8th wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it. And so my whole portfolio, I don't touch any of the profit from it. That's all to reinvest, to grow. And it's the snowball effect, the idea that the bigger it gets, the faster it will accelerate. And therefore, if you live off income and not capital, and ideally your passive income, eventually when you stop earning, that's the way to build your wealth, is to save it, don't touch it, live off your income, not your capital.
Amazing. Fantastic advice.
Thank you.
All right. Well, it's been great talking to you, Max. I'm going to leave it here. Thank you very much for your time, and congratulations again. And wish you all the best for 2023. It sounds like a very exciting one.
It will indeed, yeah.
Speak to you soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Take
you.
care, Lizzie. Bye.
Bye-bye.